I'd now like to welcome to the stage, if we could, Greig Pickhaver. If you can come up here, Greig. You may know him as H.G. Nelson, but they're very different characters. And also Seb Chan, whose speech you saw this morning about the virtual museums and the museums of the future. Join us, guys. Now, I'm going to start with you, Greig. As far as I could understand, you were trying to say that we want to somehow get the sporting passion and divert it towards good. Do you think we can really do this, use sporting passion and get good out of it?
Well, I think we have to come halfway, and thanks for the question, Craig. Terrific question. I think that the difficulty with society at the moment is largely the problem of the governments and the organisations which we've relied on for a long time are crumbling in a hard to sort of worry about at the moment sort of way. So what my suggestion is to use a new organisational tool based around an interest in sport being a common thing that draws people of all ages and all stratas of society together. I use for the purpose of the discussion the AFL. So when you're in Melbourne, you go to the big matches, you see hundreds, like last night they had the best part of 100,000 people. The trouble is it's a passive experience now. There's no active involvement. It's not as though today those 100,000 people are playing sport. My suggestion is we give a number of the people at the ground a solid reason to go, and that is that we generate power while we're there. This power should be fed into the grid, the national grid, because obviously if you have 5,000 people there on exercise bikes, you'd turn out a hell of a whack, is then sold back to the members at a premium price. So people who support the Collingwood Football Club would have clean green magpie power at home.
Is the problem with this approach that in Sydney, where you have only fair weather fans, you'll only be able to get power out of the Sydney people when Sydney's doing well on the table? Is this a bit of a concern for you? You know, Sydney will not have enough power here.
Well, let's change the code in Sydney to rugby league. I'm sure if we wanted to get 50,000 Rabbitoh supporters on the bikes, I'm sure we could. All it'd take a word from Russell. Russell would go around and sign a T-shirt for all the 50,000. On the bikes they'd go. All of a sudden, all of Redfern, all of Surrey Hills, all of, say, Waterloo and Alexandria are powered up with rabbit power. It's an exciting concept, Craig.
It is very exciting. Now, is your vision of, you know, enhancing the power of sporting fanatics, is it in any way, is it just about power and energy, or is it also go to social issues as well? Because I guess this week we've seen an interesting example whereby, you know, you can spend years through the AFL trying to say, oh, you know, get rid of homophobia and get rid of this, and then you get Jason Ackermanis out there, and as soon as you actually learn the buffy ideas of these players, it kind of ruins everything you've done beforehand. So do you think this whole idea will be ruined by Jason Ackermanis saying that the environment's, you know, he'll come out with a climate change denialist article in the Herald Sun?
Well, look, can I swerve past Jason Ackermanis because he's one of my dearest friends. Whenever I go out with Jason, we always have a great time. He often compliments me on the glow in my skin. And there's a number of topics you can't talk to Jason about. For instance, studs on boots. Studs is a no-no word for Jason. When it comes to our fun together as men, we often start wrestling about the time we put on the Ian Thorpe swimming video. That gets us very excited. And then we, of course, go out and have a quiet night together, like just blokes enjoying their own company. Romantic, yeah.
That's why Jason Ackermanis only ever shoots goals. He hates behinds. He's really scared of them.
Yes.
Now, Seb, can I bring you in here? Because as far as I can tell from your speech, you're trying to get yourself out of a job here. You're trying to, you know, change, or you're not really. You're just trying to change the nature of your job in a museum. And what I want to ask you is, if you put a lot of this stuff that museums have online and put it out there on iPhones and things like this, what does the role of the physical museum become in your kind of plan?
Oh, it's about, of course, the experience of the stuff, you know, and it means we don't have to have those labels that no one reads and all those words that kind of clutter the space. You can just have the physical experience, you know, because you've got all the words somewhere else.
So are you still talking about, you still get your kids in there once a year? Just a reminder to everyone at the TEDx forum, if you want to ask a question, come up to Cara at the front here. You can ask any questions. So are you kind of saying you still get your kids going through one day a year to the museum with their little worksheets, but at the end of it, you're kind of telling them, well, this is not the only one day of the year you have to experience a museum. You can experience this museum every day on the web, on your phone, do it a bit more. Is that the idea behind it?
Yeah, it's about that, and it's also I think about them leaving with an experience of the physicality of things like the big train or the big aeroplane or these kinds of things. So it isn't reduced to staring at a clipboard effectively. And bludging off school for a day too.
It's interesting already. You showed some examples there where a lot of the kind of content is put out there, and then it seems like, for instance, with the QVB, there are now about 15 different sites in the world where if you want to look like the QVB, you look like 10 years ago, 1,000 years ago, 100 years ago, you can. Yeah. Is it all about the museum actually having its own site, or is it actually just about releasing this information to the public and then them doing with it what they like?
It's a bit of both, I think, and I think actually the most exciting things come when other people do things with it, because it means they kind of begin to own the content that museums preserve for them. Because museums keep kind of things in the public trust, and we want the public to be engaged in a way that they feel and realise that it is actually their material, it's their culture, their past. And as our culture becomes more mediated too, video games become collected, movies become collected. It's experience of those that kind of matters, and that experience is done through using it, not necessarily just seeing it in a box.
So basically, you can steal anything you like from the Powerhouse website. I think that's the idea there.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. Cara, have you got a question there?
Yeah, we all thought Greg was talking in absolute truths, but apparently Derek's got one question.
Yes, I did want to ask Greg, in America, an enterprising basketball fan has figured out a way to use Twitter to organise the sledging of an individual on a baseball pitch. So a person from the opposing team comes up to take a free throw, and the entire stadium of fans from the other team organises a sledge, and they all chant it at the same time. Do you think this can be used in Australian sport, and can you think of any decent sledges that we should use?
Well, no, the mind goes blank on the latter part. I'm sure, if I can just, focus on fact, I'll be able to come up with something soon. I know it's a terrific idea, I'd like the Twitter to say sometimes, let's all leave now. And so if a team was down by, say, 10 goals, that there'd be a mass exodus of the supporters of that team to go. I remember, of course, there was that great incident in the early days of this, like at Liverpool railway station in England once, where they teed up everybody to come along and play the same track on their iPods.
Flash mob, yeah.
3 o'clock or something, they'd all break out into dancing and stuff like this. I think that'd be a fantastic thing. I think we've got a value add. So I don't think in the future world there'll be more entertainment available at grounds. So in the old days, who can forget, Cliff Richard amusing the crowd singing Living Doll at Wimbledon. Now, of course, it might be at 2:05 that Twitter comes in, everybody starts singing Smells Like Teen Spirit. And I think that'd be a great sight and completely unexplainable to anybody who is not at the ground. And I think that's the secret of what we should be doing.
So you'll go to the AFL, you'll be singing and you'll be peddling the whole time. And just while we're on Twitter, I should tell Greg that Malcolm Turnbull has quoted you in his tweets this today. So I think obviously he's trying to rebuild his support through linking to your sport-based pedal power thing. And I think that could, if Malcolm Turnbull returns to power in the Liberal Party, this pedal power at AFL matches could be the new ETS policy of the Liberal Party, because he's clearly behind you all the way. Thank you very much to Seb Chan and Greg Pickhaver for joining us here at the TEDx Forum.